Dude. It's a microbrew episode number 4. Join with us, the one and only, the greatest of the greats, Bart Winkler.
Hi, Drew. Do I need a beer for this?
No beers for this one because we're not in person, and we could probably get the same beer, though, because we live in the same state. A lot of times when I interview these people for microbrew episodes, that means they're shorter, micro, like smaller, get it? Trying to be fancy.
Oh, yeah, all right.
Trying to be fancy here. So usually what I do on these is talk to people about kind of like all the stuff they do and the different projects. And, of course, you've recently launched your podcast, your very own Winks Thinks podcast, which is very good. I like listening to it.
Well, thanks. So I've put out 4 episodes of the official podcast. Now, I work Entercom. It's like the biggest radio station or company in the world now.
Yeah.
Because they just bought CBS Radio. But I think a lot of times when you think of what do you know that owns radio stations? I think a lot of times you think iHeart.
Yeah.
Or some other stuff.
Yeah.
But Entercom's actually more big, or bigger, whatever. So one of the things they want us to do is do podcast, and with the way that like the world is, I think that I don't know what my job's going to look like for the uninformed. I have a radio show. I talk about sports in Milwaukee, but how long is that format going to survive? People have said it's going to die forever. Radio still goes strong. I can give you all the stats. 95% of people at some point in the week turn on a radio. So it's still a viable format, but that the problem is you can't let other formats pass you by. So
right.
The newspaper industry is seeing some of that. The TV industry did a good job by putting everything online and doing it. You almost have to for free. So I don't know how long the radio format will be there, so I want to branch out and do the podcast stuff. But with the podcast stuff, I'm talking about things that really aren't sports, and I like to do them I don't like it to be I like it to not be time sensitive. I want people to be able to digest them at any time. So I've talked about right now I'm just kind of feeling out other people in my building. I'm in a building with 2 other radio stations. And we don't get to interact on the air so much, but there's very interesting people. So I've talked to one guy jumps out of planes for fun, and I don't get it. I talked to another guy who's a comedian part-time, and we have similar comedy influences, so I wanted to learn about that. We just did one with a couple of different people just answering my question, what would happen if all the power went out in the world right this moment?
That was my question I was going to ask you.
Yeah, and then I did one about... one that you'd be familiar with because running K107 in Fond du Lac for 4 years, I went to a program director of a real music station and got his opinions on the stuff we did and what he does. So right now it's been very varied, but the 2 things that I try to do is not sports. And right now I want to keep it not time sensitive, but if I'm going to crank one of these every week, which I'm trying, I did 2 in March, took a month off, and then did 2 in April here. I do want it to be able to be enjoyed at any time.
Yeah, they're all good episodes. I've enjoyed every single one that I've listened to so far, and obviously I know you, so I get maybe a little bit more of some of the jokes, but it's a good thing. I'm glad you're doing it, and you can get it on iTunes right now too, officially.
Yeah, the Winks Thinks podcast is what you can look for. And then even if, I don't know where my life will be, and I'd like to continue it no matter where I am.
Right.
You've done a good job here staying persistent on your stuff. I just that you like to have that sort of outlet. But again, I'm 4 in. What will I do this week? I don't know. I'm trying to line up one. There's a lot of soccer people I want to talk to, but not every podcast is going to be for everyone. The one I did with Brian Kelly, who's the music program director, I mean, who besides you and my wife are going to want to listen to that one?
It's interesting, though. I mean, it's a look at things that a lot of people don't know how radio stations operate, and they don't know what a program director actually is. So you break that down, and you kind of go into the format of, you explain why you might hear more than one song in a day, you know, and the local market you talked about here, especially in Fond du Lac, where we're from, the radio stations don't want to play any song more than once a day. So if they play it at 6 a.m., they're not going to play it for any other listeners.
Which might be okay in Fond du Lac as opposed to a bigger city, but I actually don't think it is. I think that in Fond du Lac, we listen too much to the people. We listen too much to the people that we hear from.
Right.
And we didn't listen enough to the people that we never heard from, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's an interesting episode, and I think people will enjoy it nonetheless. You talk about a lot of different things. So your last podcast, what was the question? What would you do right now if all the power in the world went out? How would you react?
I think the world would end up in chaos within 8 hours, and that's the question that I'd like to ask people. And I've tried to ask this as like a, you know, small talk is kind of annoying to me.
Right.
How's the weather? Oh, something to talk about. So I like to really lay a juicy one on them. If all the power went out in the world right now, what would you do?
Yeah.
Right now, I'm in my house, so I'm with my wife. So that would be the best case scenario because we could we could be together and be protected. I don't have any way to protect my house. I don't have a gun. Yeah. I don't have, I don't know how good my locks are. I don't even know if all my windows are locked at all times or if they even are capable of it. So I think what you would do is, and again, the scenario is the power never comes back on. It's based on the NBC show Revolution, which I liked.
One season long, right?
I think it might have won 2.
Okay. I was in a class in Oshkosh when we were in like a ratings class, so we looked at all the TV ratings each and every day, and that was when Revolution just kicked off, and the ratings were pretty good. But then, I got canceled.
A lot of those shows, like Revolution, every year there's like a high concept time travel or high concept show that will come out, and the ratings start great, and then they fade. Everyone's trying to find the next Lost. Revolution, Journeyman, Awake was a good one where a guy was always awake. When he dreamt, he was actually in a different world, and he didn't know which world was fake or not. That was a really good show, but that got canceled. They all get canceled after 1 year. There's a lot of intrigue, but then Revolution, the more complicated it gets, the more people kind of quit on it because you can't join an episode. You can't join 8 months in. 8 weeks in. You got to know everything. But the show was 15 years after all the power had gone out, and it was out forever. Cars didn't work. No power worked. Nothing. And I think that if that happened in real life, we're so dependent on technology. I mean, how much money do I have on me right now? I've got a jar of change and maybe $15. I mean, would money even be the currency? Would you go to a barter system? I talk about this, and it is such a high concept thing. But if all the power did go out, and I think that'd be, that's how you cripple a society if you're trying to go to war, because then the people will turn on each other. I live in Milwaukee.
No, you'd be fucked.
Drew, I don't think I'd see Monday morning. It's Sunday right now. I wouldn't see Monday morning, man. And it's not something against like the people of Milwaukee, but a large city. There is built-in tension here for years. You're going to have some people that have a lot of stuff, some people that don't have a lot of stuff. There is some poverty here. You're going to see people band together as neighborhoods. Yeah. You might see little tribes, but eventually that's going to crumble too. I don't think that society is a very fickle thing. We all buy into this concept. Like, do you ever go to a 4-way stop sign?
Right. Yeah.
Or
absolutely.
an intersection.
Absolutely.
And we all follow it. Why? Why do we follow these rules?
Yeah.
Why did we all just buy into society? Why did we do that? A lot of us are unhappy. A lot of us have no money, but we just trug along and buy into society. Are we truly free?
I don't think so. Not at all. You're right. You're absolutely right. So what would you rather have? Would you rather have in a post-apocalyptic world, would you rather have the Revolution style, all the power's out or whatever, so you're off kind of on your own, Communication is very scarce and everything like that unless you're in a big group. Or would you rather have a zombie apocalypse like The Walking Dead?
I think I would rather have.
I'm all about the zombies.
Well, I think if honestly for survival of the world, I think I'd rather have a zombie apocalypse because you'd have one common enemy that you could band against. If the power all went out, you wouldn't know. I mean, if I would try to walk to the grocery store to get food, one, would there be anybody working there? Two, how would I pay for it? Three, would I be murdered on the way out with the groceries I have? So there's so much more unknown with the zombie apocalypse. You at least know like what the enemy is.
Yeah, that's true. But I think people are always going to be your enemy too. You know, it's whatever force is changing the world plus people afterwards, because there's always a group. There's always going to be the next, dictator of a group that he led us to this perfect life or this more comfortable life, and now we must follow everything they say, and then they go batshit and they go and kill everybody. So it's I think people are always the enemy that is never necessarily first seen.
I feel almost funny how serious we're taking this, but I really don't like people. I don't trust people. The minute that people can go off of, if like we're on a train track, right? And the train track society, the minute that we go a little bit off or it slightly derails, I mean, it's going to be a disaster.
Right. But, you brought up, and I think a lot of the people know from the previous episode, you live in Milwaukee. So how's, this is a little time sensitive subject here, but how's the air this morning from the loss of the Milwaukee
the Bucks lost?
Yeah.
Well, Drew, I can make it time sensitive and I can make it not, because the problem is it's just another night in Wisconsin sports. I mean, it was a Saturday night. The Bucks were in a game 7 against the Celtics. They didn't show up. They lost. It immediately reminded me of a Saturday night in December where the Badgers football team were in the Big Ten championship against Ohio State. And that was a heartbreaking loss. And that reminded me of, I think it was a Saturday or a Friday where the Badgers basketball team played, and they lost to Florida in the NCAA championship. And then that reminded me of every Packer heartbreak. And
there's a lot of Packer heartbreak, unfortunately.
I've been doing a sports talk show. I've been working on one now for 3-4 years. Right. And so my whole life up until that point, I was a diehard fan of all these teams. Badgers, Packers, Brewers, Bucks, and I still very much am. But it almost hurts more now because you begin to see like this doesn't change here. We are born, we pick to root for the team just because they live the closest to us. We do it unconditionally. They don't have to earn
our trust.
They don't have to earn our respect at all or our admiration. We just, who's the closest team to me? That's my favorite team. I read an article recently about how that's so stupid. Like, if you like, why do you like sports? Because you want to see the team you like win. So then why don't we just jump from team to team? The article is saying we should be more bandwagon fans because then we'll feel more joy. We are letting ourselves get so wrapped up in situations that we have completely no control over just because they're the closest team to us. And if you're in Boston, that has paid off over the last 20 years. You've had multiple championships.
Right.
If you're in Wisconsin, you've had 2 Super Bowls, which again, it's more than some others can say, but you've had heartbreak in the national championship game for basketball, college football, the MLB, the Bucks, NBA. I mean, it's like how it just seems like, and I think this Bucks one too, this Bucks loss, the Bucks have been promising fans for a long time, own the future, we're going to be good, we're going to be good. And I think this year we realized, the rest of the teams in their conference are, kind of doing it a lot better. And maybe we were sold false promises here. I think people are really getting fed up and annoyed with the teams that they root for. So we'll see what it's like when I do my first show after this loss. That should be interesting.
You'll get
But
a lot of shit, I'm sure.
I don't know, man.
I'm sure a lot of people are going to hate on you like they always do, which I love. It's funny.
Oh, yeah, then there's that people like to hate on me. But I do lean into it, too.
Absolutely, you do. Yeah. Twitter's a weird thing.
I did a tweet yesterday because people were mad that Brian Gutekunst took a punter in the 5th round of the Packers draft. He had a really good draft. He took a punter, which, I mean, they need a better punter, so there's where it's available for you. They had a ton of picks. They took arguably the best punter in college. But people got mad at him, and so I tweeted, I think Brian Gutekunst is like me. He excels at his job so much that he throws you little bones for you to get mad at him about to keep you satisfied. Yeah. And now, so I do lean into it. And there's some people that get what I'm doing, just kind of being a troll, being a dick. But there's some that just think I'm 100% serious and positive, and I do get in fights with those people a lot because I get upset that you don't understand the joke. I have to get better at that, but I do get upset. Last night too, Drew, I don't know if anyone's ever told you this when you worked in radio. I said something about the Bucks. I said, well, with how good the other teams in the East are, the Sixers are good, the Celtics are getting these guys back, the Raptors are good, the Cavs could get Kawhi Leonard, blah, 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 blah. And some guy goes, Kawhi, he's under contract till 2020. That's not happening. And I said, okay, sure. Now, Kawhi Leonard sat out most of the season this last year, and I've seen speculation that LeBron's trying to court him over to Cleveland. So I said, well, I root for an NBA where, trades exist. Because I thought he was, chirping at me, so I chirped back. And then he's like, whoa, you have to be nicer to your listeners. I listen to you every morning. You wouldn't exist if it wasn't for us. We're your customers. We pay your salary. And that's a real big trigger for me.
Well, they don't pay your salary in the slightest.
No, we can't exist. A radio station cannot exist without listeners.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
But to a point, that's not even true. A radio, the only all that the radio station needs is people to continue to buy into the product and see results. So you might only need 10 listeners, really.
That's true.
I mean, who's buying the product? We talk about so many things. That guy that tweeted me, do I know if he's ever bought one product because of the advertisements that he's heard? I don't. And he can't say that he pays my salary because he absolutely doesn't. I think a lot of times these listeners get an enormous sense of power, like, you are beholden to me because I pay your salary. You absolutely do not. Now, if everyone stopped listening to me for the week, I'd probably lose my job. If nobody listened to me this week, yes, sponsors would go away and I probably won't have a job. That's very obvious. But if one guy stops listening to me, it really doesn't do anything at all. And I don't like when people have that power. Now, when I chirp back at them, it makes me look like an asshole, like, I'm some high and mighty guy. Drew, I don't make jack shit for money.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
These people assume we make $100,000, as a starting point. I don't think listeners realize how, in most cases, I make not just less than them, but at least twice as less than them.
Yeah. Hey, can I put this on pause for a second? My kid's calling me. 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm back. Had fatherly duties to handle. My wife right now is helping old people dance to polka. What a nice lady, huh?
Yeah.
Anyways, I know we were talking about some Twitter trolls. Do you let people's hate bother you? Like, so I recently, and I've talked about it probably endlessly on the last 3 episodes, and people are probably getting annoyed with it, but there was a guy who has a podcast about people's podcasts, and he ran across mine somehow. I don't know how, but he also offers a service. It's called the School of Podcasting or something like that. And so he in this episode about my show, he tore it apart, said it wasn't good, said it was boring, and all this stuff. And I let it bother me for a long time, more than I should have, because I was like, and I just took it. I took it as an attack on me, Yeah, and I know it's just completely outrageous that I do that, but I just let it bother me because it's about something that I'm passionate about, and I don't want people to not like it, but I also have to have the understanding that not everyone's gonna like it. So that's kind of like the same thing with like Twitter. You know, you have these people saying this stuff to you, and then you respond. Do you let it bother you?
Okay, what's this guy's podcast called?
His podcast is called Podcast Rodeo, and essentially he listens to random podcasts, and he also like offers a thing on Fiverr, so people can pay $5 for him to do an episode on your podcast, which I did not do. I would never want to do that, and so I don't know. But he also finds other shows. He did one with another show that I've kind of interacted with on Twitter too, and they also didn't know that he did it, and so the point of the show is he puts it on, listens to an episode, plays some of the audio, and sees how long he can stand it, essentially.
Why did he do that to you?
I don't know. I have no idea.
What's the kind of stuff he said?
He said my audio levels were bad, which he was right in that aspect. And he just said it was boring. I don't get to the beer enough, like soon enough, fast enough. When I do episodes where we drink the beer, I don't give enough details or whatever, this and that, and it's all just...
Wow.
He didn't like that it was just regular banter between me and my friends. So.
Well, that's... All right, so is he just trying to make money?
I think so.
He wants you to get mad, and then he helps you?
Probably. He probably... Because at the end of every episode, he goes, you know, if you want... you know, my services or whatever, I do this at Fiverr. I got this website where you can learn about podcasting. It's very self-serving, but I was like, what the hell? And I didn't even know that he did it until he did the episode back. I don't even remember when it was.
I looked it up, Drew. I looked at it was in December. This guy's name is
Dave Jackson. Yeah. I know his name now.
If Dave Jackson, if you're listening, you're a fucking asshole.
Thank you.
Well, no, I mean, so if you put your podcast out there, like, if somebody did that to mine, I'd be like, well, what the fuck, man? I'm only on 4 episodes. You know, there's like, this is just a way for us to, you know, it's kind of an experiment in a little bit, and you're honing a craft here. And yeah, it is consumable. It's, you know, podcasts, they develop and grow over time. And this format, it's not like we're putting a TV show on the air night one, like a revolution. All right, judge my product. This is what it's an overtime gradual process of development. And yes, it is out there for public consumption. So you should absolutely be aware that there could be critiques and there could be criticisms, but I don't think it's fair for this Dave guy to attack yours and then make a, you know,
try to make a buck off of it,
profit, but try to, you know, benefit from yours, because you're just, I don't know. I mean, aren't you just kind of, as you go, you figure out what works, figure out what doesn't. It's just like, yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm basically putting out to the world practice for what I someday want my podcast to be, but it's also consumable for the people that want to consume it. Podcasts are way, 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 way not in your face.
Right.
We'll post on Facebook. That's what I get mad about as far as commenters. If someone on my podcast specifically, if they want to attack what I say on there, I mean, you had to voluntarily play it. So if you don't like it, you don't like it. That's fine. Sometimes we'll post on Facebook, hey, check out this podcast. And they'll say, hey, this has nothing to do about sports. What the hell? You're wasting my time. I mean, how much of a waste of time is scrolling past something on Facebook? You take more time commenting. So just don't listen to it. I'm upset to hear that this guy just kind of picked yours out and started attacking it. I don't see what the benefit of that is. And if he wants to like throw, it's like he's throwing a rock into your house and then saying, hey, I'll repair the window. Like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, I was pretty upset when I saw it, and it doesn't really bother me much now, just because I did take some of the stuff he said and I tried to make it better, but you know, I'm not gonna cater to one dude. But yeah, it's I've never really had too much experience about it with social media. I've never had too many people say weird, like I don't have the Twitter level that you do where you have all these people kind of saying this and that to you. So it's, I don't know.
Well, I mean, you have to get used to it. It is part of it. And I attack and make fun of people, too. So I do the same thing. But I think in the start, you're like the first burns on you and the first true attacks. I remember when I filled in for the radio morning show for the first time. I've just filled in. And then there was one email, just one, that I saw that came into our station email account just tearing me apart. And it was a guy who heard me for the first time and liked the other guy that I was filling in for. It's like a punch in the face. The earlier, the first criticisms you see are real, and you can't, whether you think you have a thick skin or not, it's going to knock you down. Mm-hmm. The more over time that it happens, it's little mosquito bites. And sometimes someone will like knock you back a little bit, like, oh shit, that was, like, if that happened to me, if this Dave Jackson found mine, just start tearing it apart. I don't know what I'd think. I would respond to him. I certainly would, and I would call him out, and we'd get in a big fight. And I don't see the point of what he's trying to do. If he wanted to like critique podcasts, if that's his MO, people should be able to have him do that. I don't know how he would have found yours.
I think it was some of the hashtags I use. So there's like certain hashtags that a lot of like independent podcasts use just to kind of, get on there. And
so he's just picking on
right. These are all shows that are like independent podcasts. He's not going after Mark Maron. He's not going after Chris Hardwick. He's going after these little people that have a passion, want to do something creative and work on it and hone in some skills maybe they didn't know they had. And then that's how he promotes his shit,
That's garbage.
I agree, but maybe you're right. Maybe it's just because it's the first like actual like hate I've gotten about my podcast that it bothered me so much to the point where I've now talked about it endlessly.
Well, I don't blame you. How did you find out that he did this?
I was someone had said they left the review on iTunes, and I wasn't seeing it when I looked on it on my phone, so I just went in on my iTunes account on my computer, typed in my show name or whatever, and then that episode, the name of the episode is the name of my show. It popped up, and I was like, what the fuck is this? And,
oh man!
And then I listened to it, and I was just like, wow, like this sucks. Like this is a bad feeling.
Yeah, sorry, dude. That's weird.
Shit happens, I guess, but I just figured you'd be an expert on it because you seem to, like you said, you feed into it a little bit, but you get your fair share of hate, and that's what you get for being on a bigger market, on a bigger scale.
Some of it bothers me. There's these three guys that are really after me right now on every post that is made about me. There's three guys, and the problem, I'm not so offended with like the stuff they say. I'm offended because when one of them sees the comment, he tags the other two guys, and
on
Facebook, I hate, when you post a comment on Facebook and then I just hate comments that are just tagging. I don't know. I hate comments that are just tagging. There's no comment.
They're just tagging somebody because they want them to see this.
Yeah, I did. For some reason, I just hate that. Like, just share it a different way. I don't know.
Well, you can share it via these news stations, message.
And the comments are 100 just people tagging. I hate it.
Yeah, I could understand that.
But then, Drew, I met one of these kids.
Oh no! Did you punch him in the face?
Because I met one of these kids in public, and previously I said, all right, I want to do a podcast with you three, and I want you to tell me why you hate me so much and what you do like in sports radio. I thought that'd be a good podcast.
It would be.
So they said, okay. And I wanted to set it up. Like, I just had to download Skype to talk to you. I'm still way behind with how I want to be able to do the podcast outside of my radio station because I'm able to do the podcast on that equipment. I want to be able to do it in my own house on my own stuff. So I was going to wait to get that set up, and then I was going to reach out to these guys, but they were relentless. And I met one at this Packer tailgate thing, and he goes, Bart. I'm like, hey, what's up, dude? He goes, he says his name. I go, oh, yeah. And right away I got a really weird feeling.
Yeah.
And he said, hey, we're just messing around, right? And I go, oh, that's fine. I still want to do the podcast with you guys. He goes, and I said, but if you're just messing around, like play into the stuff that you've been doing, like tell me all those things and tell me why you hate me, and that'll be a fun podcast. He goes, okay, good, because I really do hate you. And I just got a really weird, like, okay, well, if I get murdered, this is the guy that's going to do it.
Yeah. I would be interested to hear that episode. That would be pretty funny, I think. How have people responded to the podcast otherwise?
I have no idea of what the metrics are. I don't know who's listened to it. The people that have listened to it like it. But again, I don't know how many people do that. We do a wrestling podcast at the station every week. I don't know how many people are listening to that. It's all kind of just, we're experimenting a little bit, but also making it consumable. And that's the whole point, I think, of podcasts. Eventually you'll find your sweet spot, and you can become one of the top podcasts out there. All these podcasts that are out there that are, top 50 listened to, go back and listen to their 10th episode. And what does that sound like? And, the more you continue to do it, and the more people that you find and that find you, they'll go back and look at these previous episodes, and they'll see a difference, and they'll see how you've learned, and they'll see improvement, and just like anything. So I'm really pissed that guy just kind of randomly tore you down for no reason. Yeah,
it was a bummer. It is what it is. The episode's still there to be listened to, but hopefully people just skip over it and don't take his word. So, all right. Well, the Winks Thinks podcast, you can get it on iTunes, Google Play, and all that stuff too.
I don't know. I think so. I mean, I only use iTunes. So if you use Google Play, I don't want you wasting your time. You should, instead of downloading my podcast on Google Play, you should get a fucking iPhone and download it on iTunes. I'm tired of, when people, oh, we got a new app here, download it on your iTunes or Google Play. You know where to fucking get a podcast.
Yeah, right. So
Google Play. What is that? It's the dumbest fucking Google Play. God, just go buy a fucking iPhone.
There you go. Go buy an iPhone. Listen to the Winks Thinks podcast. Bar Winkler, thanks again, man, for doing this last minute. I appreciate it.
I'm now going to go listen to Podcast Rodeo.
Great.
Pew pew audio. Goodbye, everyone.